Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ango show. I know it's been a couple days and I'm sorry for that. It's just been really hectic lately and wrestling has been kind of interesting. CM Punk won the world championship. A lot of things are happening, but today we got some big news, some bad news for WWE, putting a little bit of the spotlight on Triple H, also a contract signing for a legend. And yes, a WWE star has undergone a name change. We are going to talk about it all right here on TAS. And if you guys want more videos like this, don't forget to click that subscribe button. It's November. Now we are in full gear. We are coming with new videos and shorts and TikToks and live streams and everything every day. So make sure you don't miss it. I want to kick things off with Zelina Vega. Now, you may have noticed I said Zelina Vega, but that's actually not her name anymore because WWE has decided to drop her last name from her character. Some very interesting news there because WWE obviously now has Zelina and Aleister Black together on screen. This has been a very interesting change for the two. I personally am a big fan of this change. However, a few weeks ago, when we saw Zelina Vega join Aleister Black, we thought, okay, this was it. She might be repackaged just a little bit. And WWE has like this weird philosophy. We've seen from time to time, man, this gets funny, but like some of these wrestlers get name changes. Right? Austin Theory became Theory and like they kind of dropped the first name or the last name and they kept it one word, whatever it may be. Obviously, now she is inseparable from Aleister Black. It is very clear they are packaged together. And she was obviously there for his match against Ilya Dragunov. However, while this detail may have not actually been noticed by a lot of people, WWE is now referring to Zelina Vega simply as just Zelina. If you go on the official website of WWE.com and you check out the roster, Zelina Vega's name has also been shortened as well. So now she no longer has the Vega last name on there. But it is still very interesting because WWE's recent packages still include Zelina Vega. This is a very interesting situation between WWE because sometimes we just don't see them sticking to some of the changes that they make, right? There's a lot of confusion here. And yeah, albeit not a big deal, but WWE is clearly in a situation where like, okay, you're now referring to her as Zelina, but it's not necessarily consistent across the entire show, entire programming. That's something that WWE will have to clarify. But WWE has done this several times in the past where sometimes it just seems like they can't make up their own mind. And it's happened under the Vince McMahon era. It's happening under the Triple H TKO era. But it is something interesting to pay attention to. And really what it comes down to is a couple things, right? Presenting talent is the most important aspect to a wrestling show. I know some people think it's the wrestling moves itself, but deep down inside, it's the presentation. The presentation of the talent before they could even do a move will determine if they can connect with the audience, right? So when they're gimmicked, or maybe they don't even have a big gimmick, but when there is a packaging about them, a presentation about them, a name, a vision, it creates a perception of who this person is before they even step foot in the ring. And so therefore, you have to be consistent with this along the way. WWE sometimes changing their mind back and forth. Are you calling Seth frickin' Rollins or are you calling him Seth Rollins, right? It's a big deal. These are things that matter. And with Zelina Vega, I personally don't mind them dropping the Vega name, personally speaking. I think Zelina sounds a lot better anyways. And I think most people do tend to just call her by her first name. But it's important that WWE gets this right because moving forward on Friday Night SmackDown, you want to make sure people are consistently knowing that this is a change that's being done. And if you're inconsistent with the presentation of a person, you're actually hurting them in the long run. And that's not just the name, but it's also their visuals, it's the music, it's the Titantron, it's all of the above, right? And that is the single-handedly most important aspect to all of this. I really do like Zelina Vega's entrance with Aleister Black, which is great. But again, it's important to at least acknowledge the fact that this is something that WWE does have to get better with. And one thing I will say too, Zelina is in a very interesting spot on the roster because she did get a little bit of a push. She got the Women's United States Championship. She did some stuff there, but now she's being utilized more as an asset for Aleister Black versus being on her own. Now, what I would like to see happen, and maybe this is too much to ask for, I don't know, but I would really like to see Zelina Vega or Zelina just simply have some singles matches on SmackDown, right? She can do this new gimmick that she has with Aleister Black, but she doesn't need to just be Aleister Black's valet. if that makes sense. Let her be your own star, but then when it comes to Aleister Black and the promos and being by his side, you could do the same thing. I know some people have made the comparison to Karrion Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux, and I understand that comparison. It's very fair. But Scarlett didn't get the opportunity to have singles matches and participate in in-ring action. She became more of an accommodation side piece to Karrion Kross and didn't get to do her own stuff when everybody knows she could. I don't want to see the same mistake being done here with Zelina. Now we're switching gears to a WWE legend who has signed a new deal with the company. And what does this mean? What will it include? Will we see anything? Or is this just simply another Legends contract? And it's important that I ask that because Legends contracts, these nostalgia contracts, sometimes you see people make appearances and sometimes you're just not really seeing anything from them, but they're still benefiting from WWE. Leilani Kai has now signed a Legends deal with WWE, and WWE is giving its flowers to Leilani Kai, which is great. Obviously, we saw with like the Hall of Fame and stuff like that. Leilani Kai is now part of the WWE Legends contract roster. During her recent appearance on the After Chat with Bill Apter, the former WWF Women's Champion revealed that WWE did reach out to her while recovering from surgery, and it actually turned into an invitation to rejoin the company in a official capacity. So she actually said that she was having surgery on her hip. She was in the hospital. After a couple days later, they called her and asked if they could take care of her hospital bill or if there was anything they can do for her. She told them no. She rejected their assistance. She said she was taken care of and she was fine. And then they told her that they wanted her to join the WWE family. She said it wasn't Triple H either, but it was one of his assistants that did so, which is pretty cool. And obviously, this is a pretty big deal, I think, for a lot of people. WWE has had the tendency in the past to not necessarily respect their legends, maybe kind of utilize legends poorly, maybe not take care of them as much. But this is huge, man. She was part of the very first WrestleMania in 1985. She defended the WWF Women's Championship against Wendy Richter. This is like people know who she is. A lot of people do accredit The Rock for maybe because he joined the TKO board. Maybe he's the reason why she's getting acknowledged and why they're doing this sort of thing. But listen, man, you've heard me talk about Legends contracts on this channel before. I will 1,000,000% stand by it. I think they're great. Yes, maybe it's not the most paying thing in the world, but if WWE needs you for appearances or if WWE wants you in the video game, that's a big deal. And what's actually really interesting too is WWE video games have the tendency, especially like 2K, with my faction and whatnot, there's a lot of opportunities for 2K and WWE to include legends. And I'm not saying Leilani Kai is going to be the most utilized person in the video game, but because of legends deals, it allows talent to actually be part of it and then get some sort of royalty. Now, are these royalties super crazy? No, but you're associated with the WWE. You've been associated with them before, and WWE is not preventing you from going elsewhere. I think it's like a no-brainer. I think Billy Gunn is like the perfect example of this, by the way. He's on a nostalgia contract with WWE. They're able to monetize him. He gets paid from WWE, but also he could be active on AEW television. To me, it's just a no-brainer. I just feel like it's not that big of a deal. And so it doesn't sound like they give up that much anyways to do this. If anything, they're just basically being compensated for their likeness, which they've already been associated with the company before. So definitely a big deal. And that brings us to our final topic of today's video, ladies and gentlemen. Some bad news for WWE and Triple H. And honestly, this is a very, very interesting story that's floating around because this past weekend we had Friday Night SmackDown and we had Saturday Night's Main Event out in Utah. And WWE SmackDown, I mean, the pictures are floating around everywhere. The attendance wasn't that great. Now, look, this is going to happen from time to time. We've seen this with AEW and WWE. Attendance goes up, attendance goes down. But there is a little bit of an issue here because it's been reported that Triple H wasn't even backstage for like Saturday Night's Main Event anyways. Like he hasn't been around backstage that often. He's not consistently backstage. So now this is where things get a little tricky because if WWE sold, 4,000, 5,000 tickets to SmackDown and you're doing, 7,000 to 15,000, you're obviously seeing a decrease. Now, this is not actually due to interest in the product. I don't think this has anything to do with the interest in the overall product because WWE's interest is relatively high right now. But this is where TKO and corporate greed could become an issue. I think we have to talk about that, right? TKO wants to do these big weekends where they're stacking the deck with WWE events. Well, a lot of families right now, they are being very conservative with their money and their financials, and they're not going to go to SmackDown and then Saturday night's main event, all while having to pay for rent and their mortgage and their electricity bill and gas bill and water bill and cell phone bill and cable bill. And by the way, if you want to watch WWE on TV, you got to have ESPN, you got to have Netflix, you got to have Peacock. There's a lot of things that people have to spend money on to maintain a living. And so, yes, WWE, they're in a weird situation because people are spending money to go to their events and people are willing to pay the higher tickets. But when you're stacking the deck, maybe this strategy isn't actually that beneficial to WWE, because I know from my own personal experience and just using common sense, if WWE came to Detroit on November 4th and then November 5th, I'm going to go to the show. If I'm going to go at all, I'm going to go to the one that seems better in my opinion. I'm not going to go to both. I don't care that they're here both days. I would be just content or just fine with going one of the days. That's it. So WWE has kind of put themselves in a very bad situation, and it kind of doesn't look that good on Triple H if he's not backstage at these events, because you're hearing more of Triple H taking on some stuff with politics in the White House. Obviously, Triple H is like the Dana White for WWE now. He's the front man. He's the guy. He's going to take all the smoke. He's going to get all the praise. He's the guy doing the press conferences. He's the guy doing the interviews. He's the face of WWE, right? And so when Triple H has a Friday Night SmackDown like this, where attendance is a lot lower than normal, people are going to see that, and then they're going to drive the conversation in a more negative way. And that's also largely due to the fact that, unfortunately, he's the front man. So if Triple H is the front man and the numbers are going down, and then, by the way, it comes out that he's not even there, a lot of people are going to have something negative to say. So that's why this is bad news for WWE. It's not good news for WWE, because you don't want to be seeing this kind of thing when your trajectory has been very high. WWE has been trending to do incredibly well. So now that people are seeing this, it's kind of worrisome. You don't press the panic button. I personally thought SmackDown was a great show. I thought Saturday night's main event was a great show. But the attendance is a key indicator as to whether or not people are willing to spend the money. And if the ticket prices are high and they're not enjoying the show as much, they're not going to buy the tickets. So it's a very interesting dynamic. Hopefully WWE figures it out. Hopefully all these companies figure it out. Wrestling is better when they're all thriving and successful, but this is definitely not a good look.